The gift nobody wanted. The arena was alive with noise. Alien voices roared from every side, echoing off the tall stone walls. Bright lights shone down on the red sand, turning every drop of blood into a dark shadow. The smell of sweat, metal, and fear hung heavy in the air. Kale stood in the center of it all, a human among giants. Chains hung from his wrists, but his eyes were steady, calm. He had fought here many times before, sometimes against beasts with teeth like knives, sometimes against other slaves. He had survived them all. That was why the crowd knew his name. They called him the Stubborn One. But today was different. A large alien with skin like cracked stone stepped forward, dragging something behind him. The crowd leaned forward to see. It was a girl, small, thin, her skin pale with a strange silver glow. Her head was bowed, her long white hair hiding her face. Chains bound her wrists and ankles. She did not fight. She did not even try to walk on her own. She only stumbled forward when pushed. The announcer's voice rang out, deep and cruel. People of the arena. Today, the human is given a gift. He laughed, and the crowd laughed with him. This broken thing comes from the far stars. Her people are long dead. She has no fight left. Let us see what the human will do with her. Kale looked at her. She was not looking at him. Her eyes were fixed on the ground. She was shaking not from cold, but from fear. The alien shoved her toward Kale, and she fell to her knees in the sand. Chains clinked as she tried to rise. The crowd waited. They wanted a show. They wanted the human to push her, strike her, humiliate her. That was what gifts like this were for, entertainment. Kale didn't move. He didn't touch her. Instead, he crouched down until he was at her level. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. The announcer laughed again. "She doesn't speak, human. She is useless. Perhaps you can train her or break her." The crowd roared. Kale didn't listen. He noticed her wrists were raw under the chains. Her breathing was fast and shallow. She was ready to flinch at the smallest movement. He lowered his voice even more. "You're safe. I won't hurt you." Her head turned slightly, just enough for him to see her eyes, pale blue, almost white. For a moment, she stared at him as if trying to understand. Then she looked away again. The announcer grew impatient. "Enough. Let us begin the first test." A gate opened, and a small, snarling creature ran into the arena. Its fur stood on end, its teeth long and yellow. It wasn't large, but its eyes were wild. It rushed toward the girl. The crowd cheered. They expected her to scream, to run, to be bitten, while the human laughed. Kale moved before anyone could react. He stepped between her and the creature, kicking it away. It yelped and circled back. Kale grabbed a broken spear lying in the sand and faced it again. The creature lunged. Kale swung hard. The wooden shaft cracked against its head, and it rolled to the ground, stunned. The crowd fell silent for a second, then exploded into shouts, some angry, some shocked. The announcer's voice was sharp now. "Human. She must fight for herself." Kale ignored him. He turned to the girl. "Are you hurt?" She stared at him, confused. No one had ever asked her that before. Slowly, she shook her head. Two guards stomped into the arena. One grabbed the creature by its tail and dragged it away. Kale grabbed the girl's arm, but Kale stepped forward. "She stays with me," he said. The guard froze. Slaves were not supposed to speak to guards like that. Not unless they wanted a beating. But the guard only laughed and let go. "Fine, human. She's yours. But she won't last the night." The crowd laughed again, but there was something uneasy in the sound. This was not the show they had expected. Kale helped the girl to her feet. She stood, but her legs trembled. He placed a hand on her shoulder lightly so she could move away if she wanted. She didn't. They walked together toward the slave quarters under the arena. The noise of the crowd faded as they moved through the tunnels. The air grew cooler. The stone walls dripped with moisture. Somewhere in the distance, someone coughed. Kale led her to his small corner, nothing more than a bed of straw and a blanket. He handed her the blanket. Here, rest. She took it slowly, as if expecting it to be a trick. She wrapped it around herself and sat down. Her eyes never left him, but she didn't speak. Kale sat against the wall, watching the doorway in case. A guard came. He didn't know why he cared so much. Maybe because she looked more like a frightened child than a warrior. Maybe because he knew what it was like to be thrown into this place with no hope. Somewhere deep in the arena above, another fight began. The crowd's roar shook the walls. The girl's voice was almost too quiet to hear. Help! Kale looked at her sharply. She was staring at him now, eyes wide, as if she had just risked everything to say that one word. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heavy, getting closer. Kale knew one thing. If the guards had heard her speak, things were about to get very dangerous. Whispers in the dark, the footsteps grew louder in the dark hallway. Heavy boots scraping against stone. Kale's muscles teened. The girl sat frozen. Blanket pulled tight around her. Her lips were pressed shut now, as if afraid she had already said too much. Kale leaned close and whispered, "Don't speak." The shadow of a guard filled the doorway. A tall alien with insect-like eyes and long, thin arms stepped inside. His gaze swept the room, lingering on the girl. "She talks?" The guard asked, voice like dry leaves. Kale shook his head. "Not a word. She's too broken." The guard studied him for a long moment. Kale kept his face calm, his breathing steady. But inside, he was ready to move, ready to fight if the guard tried to take her. Finally, the guard snorted. "If she talks, you'll pay." He turned and left. The sound of his boots faded into the distance. Kale exhaled slowly. The girl's hands trembled under the blanket. He moved closer, keeping his voice low. "You said help," he murmured. "Why?" Her pale eyes flickered toward the doorway, checking if anyone else was there. Then she looked at him, as if weighing whether she could trust him. "They?" Her voice cracked. She swallowed, trying again. "They will take me. Soon. Take you where?" Kale asked. Her gaze dropped to the floor. "Not here. Somewhere worse." That night, the slave quarters were quiet, except for the distant rumble of the arena above. Most of the other captives were sleeping, but Kale couldn't. He sat awake, his back against the wall, listening to every sound. The girl, Lyra. He decided he would call her, even if she hadn't told him her real name. Sat curled in the corner, her knees pulled up under the blanket. Her eyes stayed open, glowing faintly in the dark. Kale finally spoke. "If you want me to help, I need to know more." She hesitated. Then she whispered, "There's a ship. They use it for broken ones. Like me, no one comes back." Kale felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He had seen plenty of cruelty in this place, but something about her words made his blood run colder. "Why you?" he asked. "They think I'm useless here. I cannot fight, but they are wrong." For the first time, there was a flicker of something. In her voice, anger. "They broke my body. They cannot break my mind." Kale leaned forward. "Then we make sure they never take you to that ship." A sudden clang echoed through the hallway. The girl flinched. Kale stood quickly and stepped to the doorway. 2 guards passed by, dragging another slave between them, a large reptilian creature, its scales covered in blood. It looked half dead. Kale knew what that meant. The arena had claimed another victim. Tonight, when the noise faded, Kale turned back to her. "We don't have much time." She studied him for a moment. "Why do you care?" Kale didn't answer right away. He thought of the day he had been brought here, chained and beaten, paraded, in front of a laughing crowd. He thought of the hopeless nights staring at the cold ceiling, wondering if anyone would risk themselves to help him. "Because someone should have cared for me," he finally said. "No one did. I won't let that happen to you." Over the next few days, Kale began to notice things. When the guards fed the slaves, they always skipped Lyra's corner unless he stepped in. When the arena matches ended, guards whispered about the transfer list. And each night, Lyra's fear grew. Worse, one night, Kale found her sitting near the far wall, tracing strange shapes in the dirt with her finger. "What's that?" he asked. "A map," she said quietly. "Of the tunnels under the arena." Kale crouched beside her. The lines were simple but clear: hallways, storage rooms, locked gates. One path was marked with a small X. "That is where they keep the ship key," she said. "If you have it, you can leave." Kale frowned. "How do you know this?" Her pale eyes met his. "I was not always a prisoner." The next day, the arena master summoned Kale for work hauling crates to the storage tunnels. Kale noticed something immediately. The path he was being led down was on Lyra's map. The alien guard pushed him forward. "Move faster, human." They passed a locked metal door. Kale glanced at it and memorized its position. His heart beat faster. The X on Lyra's map had not been a lie. That night, he told her what he had seen. "You will need the key," she whispered. "It is not guarded during the first match of the day. They think no one would dare steal it then." "That's when I'll take it," Kale said. But before they could plan further, a sharp alarm rang through the slave quarters. Red light flashed against the walls. Lyra's face went pale. "They are coming. For you." Kale asked. She nodded. "It is the transfer." Kale's body tensed. "Not tonight." The sound of boots and metal keys rattling grew closer. Kale stepped in front of Lyra, his shadow covering her completely. The door slammed open. 3 guards entered. "Step aside, human," one hissed. Kale didn't move. His hand tightened into a fist. "You want her?" His voice was calm, but his eyes were steel. "Then you'll have to go through me." The guards exchanged glances, smiled. They liked fights. The biggest one stepped forward. "Then fight." Kale took a breath, every muscle ready. Behind him, Lyra gripped the blanket like a shield. Her pale eyes locked on him. She had whispered for help, and he had promised. Now it was time to keep that promise. The first defiance the morning crowd gathered early. Rumors had spread through the arena like fire. The human had defied the guards. In the holding pen, Kale stood with his wrists chained. The air smelled of hot metal and dust. Across from him, 2 guards dragged Lyra into the sunlight. Her eyes were down, her hands bound, her thin frame shaking. The arena master, a towering alien with green armored skin, stepped forward and smiled with sharp teeth. "People of the arena," his voice boomed. "Today, we give you a rare treat. The human thinks he can protect the broken one. Let us see how long that lasts." The crowd roared. Kale's chains were unlocked. Lyra was shoved toward the center of the arena. The sand crunched under her bare feet. From the far gate, a metallic screech echoed. Something huge moved in the shadows. The crowd chanted for blood. A beast emerged taller than Kale, its skin black and ridged, with claws like hooked blades. Its eyes glowed yellow. A heavy collar dug into its neck, pulling against a chain held by another guard. The master's voice rang out. "She fights, or the human dies." Lyra froze. Kale saw it the way her body went rigid, the way her breathing stopped. She wasn't just afraid of the beast. She was trapped in some old memory. Kale took a step toward her. "Look at me," he said. She didn't move. The beast snarled, pulling against its chain. The crowd shouted for the fight to begin. Kale turned toward the master. "She doesn't fight." The master's smile widened. "Then you will." The chain holding the beast was released. The creature lunged forward with terrifying speed. Kale dove to the side, rolling through the sand. Its claws slashed the ground where he had stood. The crowd screamed in excitement. Kale grabbed a broken spear lying in the dust. It was splintered, barely usable, but it was something. The beast circled him, growling low. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Lyra standing frozen, her pale eyes. Locked on the fight, the beast charged again. Kale sidestepped and jammed the spear into its shoulder. The shaft cracked, but the beast only roared louder, twisting toward him. Its claws scraped his side, tearing his shirt and skin. Pain burned through him, but Kale didn't back away. He needed to end this fast before the beast turned on Lyra. The creature lunged once more. Kale ducked low, then drove the broken spear upward into its neck. The beast let out a choking growl and collapsed into the sand. The crowd's cheers turned into a strange mix of shouts, some angry, some surprised. This wasn't the fight they had expected. Kale dropped the spear and turned to Lyra. She was staring at him. Her lips parted as if she couldn't believe what she had just seen. The master's voice cut through the noise. "Interesting. Very interesting." 2 guards entered the arena. One went to drag the beast away. The other reached for Lyra. Kale stepped between them. "She leaves with me." The guard's hand twitched toward his weapon, but the master raised a clawed hand to stop him. "Let them go. For now." Back in the tunnels, the air was cooler, but heavy with tension. Lyra walked beside Kale in silence until they reached his corner in the slave quarters. Finally, she spoke. "Why? Why? What?" Kale asked. "Why risk your life for me?" Kale sat down, wiping the blood from his side with a piece of cloth. "Ah, because they want to break you, and I've seen what's left when they succeed." Her eyes lowered. "They already broke me." "No," Kale said firmly. "Not yet." That night, the quarters were unusually quiet. Even the other slaves kept their distance, whispering about the fight. Kale noticed something new. Lyra was watching him, studying him. When he caught her gaze, she looked away quickly, but not before he saw something there. Not trust, not yet, but something close. She spoke softly. "The key you need. It is kept near the beast pens." Kale leaned forward. "You've seen it?" She nodded. "I was taken there once. I remember the smell of oil and the sound of metal locks." Kale's mind worked quickly. The beast pens were near the arena's lower gates, dangerous, but reachable during the early morning when guards were fewer. Before he could say more, a guard appeared at the doorway. His insect-like eyes scanned the room before landing on Lyra. "The master has plans for you," he said. Soon, he left without another word. Lyra's face went pale. Kale clenched his fists. He knew what soon meant, as the arena above filled again with shouts and music. Kale sat in the dark, making a silent decision. The next move wouldn't be about surviving the arena. It would be about getting her out before Soon arrived. But he also knew something else. The master was watching him now. Every step, every word, and the next test would not be so easy to defy. Chains began to crack. The clang of a metal cup broke the silence. Lyra froze, her breath catching. The cup had slipped from her hands and rolled across the stone floor, its sharp echo bouncing off the cold walls. Kale's head snapped up. "Leave it," he whispered. But it was too late. The cup rolled into a shadowed corner, the master's private chamber. No one went in there without permission. Not if they wanted to keep their life. Lyra hesitated. Her instincts screamed to leave it. But another part of her, something small but stubborn, pushed her forward. She stepped inside. The chamber was dim, lit only by a pale strip of light from a narrow window high in the wall. The air smelled of oil, metal, and something faintly sweet, like a flower rotting in the sun. On a table, surrounded by scraps of metal and strange tools, sat a small black device. Smooth, round edges. A faint blue light pulsing on its side. Her eyes locked on it instantly. She knew that shape. She had seen one before on the day her freedom was taken. It was a control unit. For her, her pulse quickened. She could feel it like a thread pulling at the back of her mind, a weight pressing on her thoughts. It wasn't just chains on her wrists and ankles. This thing was the invisible cage. The reason her body sometimes refused to move. The reason her voice failed when she tried to speak. Her hands itched to grab it, to smash it against the floor until it was nothing but shards. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Lyra snatched the cup and hurried out, slipping back into the main room just before the master appeared in the doorway. His eyes, cold and green, swept the room. "Working hard, I see," he said slowly. His gaze lingered on her for a moment too long. She kept her eyes on the ground, forcing her body to stillness. The master smirked and left. That night, she told Kale. "It's there," she whispered. "In his chamber, a control device." Kale frowned. "Control? What do you mean?" "It's why I can't fight. Why I can't run. It tells my body what to do or not to do." She hugged her knees to her chest. "It's not just me being broken. It's him." Kale leaned forward, his voice low. "If we can get it, then I'm free," she finished for him. The next morning, Kale studied the guard's movements. The master's chamber was watched. At all hours, except during the changeover between shifts. That window lasted only minutes. He began to count the time between steps in the hallway, memorizing patterns. But he also noticed something else. The master had started to keep Lyra close. Whenever she was moved, there were more guards than before. It meant to things he suspected Kale's interest, and he feared losing her. 3 days later, the opportunity came. Kale was ordered to carry supplies to a storeroom near the master's chamber. The guards at the door had stepped away for the shift change. He moved quickly. Glancing down the hall empty, he slipped inside. The chamber was just as Lyra had described. The table, the tools, and the black device. Its blue light pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Kale picked it up. It was lighter than he expected, almost delicate. The faint hum coming from it made the hairs on his neck rise. He stuffed it under his shirt and walked out, forcing his pace to stay casual. That night, he showed it to Lyra. Her hand shook as she touched it, almost afraid it would vanish. "This is it," she breathed. "How do we break it?" Kale asked. She hesitated. "Smash it, and the master will know. He will come for us immediately. But if I can open it, I can shut it down quietly." Kale handed it over without hesitation. "Then do it." Hours passed. Lyra worked with a small piece of sharpened scrap metal, prying open the seams. The blue light flickered. Once, a sharp pulse shot through her body, making her gasp and drop it. Kale caught it before it hit the floor. Finally, the casing cracked open. Inside were thin wires, twisting around a small core that glowed faintly. Lyra stared at it, her breathing quick. "This is the cage," she whispered. "Once I pull this, I'm not theirs anymore." She looked at Kale. "But when I do, there's no going back. They will know I'm free." Kale's eyes were steady. "Then we make sure when they know." We're already gone." Before she could act, the alarm bell rang through the quarter's 3 sharp bursts. Not the fight signal. Not the feeding call. Kale's stomach dropped transfer signal. They were coming for her. The door burst open. Her guards stormed in. Weapons. "Ready?" The lead one pointed at Lyra. "She's leaving now." Kale stepped in front of her, his body blocking the way. Not happening. The guards spread out, cutting off the exits. One smirked. "Then we take you too." Kale's fists clenched. Behind him, he felt Lyra press the device into his hand. Her voice was a whisper only he could hear. "Hold them." Then she stepped. To the side, the device still half open in her grip. Her fingers closed around the glowing core. The guards lunged, she pulled, the blue light flared and went out. And in that moment, something inside her changed. The stiffness in her limbs vanished. The fog in her mind cleared. She stood taller, straighter, her eyes brighter than Kale had ever seen. One of the guards froze mid-strike, surprised. Lyra moved fast, faster than they could react. She ripped a weapon from the nearest guard's hand and swung it with sudden, shocking strength. Kale grinned. "Guess you're not broken after all." She didn't smile back. Her voice was sharp, clear, and free. "Let's get out of here." Blood in the sand, the crowd was already screaming before Kale even stepped into the arena. Something was different. Today, louder, meaner. From the opposite gate, Lyra appeared. No chains this time, but 2 guards pushed her forward with their spears. The sun caught her white hair, and for a moment, Kale saw the fire in her eyes that had not been there before. The control device was gone. She was free in mind, but not in body, not yet. The arena master stood high above, his voice booming over the noise. "Today, my people, the human and the girl, will fight each other. Only one leaves alive." The crowd roared. Kale's gut tightened. He glanced at Lyra. Her jaw was set. She didn't need to say if she knew this was a trap. If they refused, the guards would kill them both. If they fought, they'd be doing the master's work. 2 weapons were thrown into the sand along. Curved blade for Kale, a short spear for Lyra. The steel gleamed under the hot sun. "Begin." The crowd screamed. Kale moved first, running at her not to strike, but to close the distance so they could speak without being overheard. Their weapons clashed with a sharp ring. "Follow my lead," he whispered. Lyra's eyes narrowed, but she nodded. They began to trade blows, but every swing was controlled, every strike just close enough to look real. Dust rose around their feet as they circled each other. The crowd was loving it at first. Then the master's voice rang out again, harder. Kale swung wide, letting Lyra block and shove him back. She lunged, her spear tip stopping, just short of his chest. The crowd gasped. They kept it up, blow after blow, keeping the illusion alive. But the master's eyes were sharp. He'd seen hundreds of fights. He could smell false blood from a mile away. "Enough games," the master snarled. He raised his hand. A gate creaked open, and the sound of heavy paws filled the arena. Kale didn't even need to look, he knew that sound. The beast from before. The one he had barely survived. The crowd went wild. The master grinned. "Let's see how you fight now, human." The creature stepped into the sun, its black, ridged skin. Glistening yellow eyes locked on them both. This time, there was no chain around its neck. It growled low, a deep, rolling sound that made the sand vibrate under their feet. Kale and Lyra stood side by side. "Plans?" She asked. "Stay alive," he said. The beast charged. Kale shoved Lyra aside as claws slashed through the space where she had been standing. He swung his blade at its side, but it was fast, too fast. It spun, snapping its jaws at him. Lyra darted forward, stabbing the beast's leg with her spear. It howled, twisting toward her. Kale saw the opening and drove his blade deep into its neck. Blood sprayed across the sand, black and steaming. The beast staggered, but didn't fall. The crowd was losing its mind, chanting for more. The beast lunged again, knocking Kale to the ground. Claws pinned his shoulders. Hot breath filled his face, smelling of rot and iron. Before it could bite, Lyra slammed her spear into its eye. The creature let out a terrible, high-pitched scream and reeled back. Kale rolled to his feet, grabbed his blade, and with one final strike, ended it. The beast collapsed in the sand, blood pooling around its head. The crowd erupted, half cheered for the kill, half screamed in disappointment. The master's voice was sharp now. Take them back, both of them. Guards rushed in. Kale and Lyra let themselves be dragged toward the gates, knowing the fight wasn't over in the tunnel's shadow. Away from the eyes of the crowd, Lyra leaned close. Tomorrow, she whispered, we make our move. Kale glanced at the guards. How? The chaos of the first match. Everyone watching. I'll get us to the lower gate. Kale's lips curved into a faint smile. And after that, she said, we disappear. But the master was already planning his own game. High in his private chamber, stood over the smashed control device Kale had stolen. His green eyes glowed with cold amusement. They think they are free, he murmured. Let's see how far they get. That night, Kale sat awake, watching the torchlight flicker across the walls. The fight had given them a chance, one final chance. But he knew the master would tighten his grip. Beside him, Lyra rested with her spear in hand, ready even in sleep. The sand of the arena was still wet with the beast's blood. And tomorrow, to be wet again. The arena shook with the roar of the morning crowd. Kale stood in the shadows of the tunnel, his wrists bound but loose enough to break free. Beside him, Lyra adjusted the strap of a guard's stolen dagger hidden under her tunic. Her pale eyes were steady, now no fear, only focus. This is it, she whispered. He nodded once. First match, chaos. We move fast. The gate ahead rattled open. Sunlight poured in, blinding for a moment. The crowd screamed for the day's entertainment, not knowing the real show was about to begin. Kale and Lyra stepped into the arena. But instead of facing a beast or another fighter, they were ordered to carry weapons to the center for the next combatants. It was perfect cover. The guards turned their backs to shout orders. Lyra gave the signal, just a small tilt of her head. Kale moved first, striking the nearest guard in the gut with the heavy crate of weapons. The man doubled over, and Kale's elbow smashed into the back of his skull. He went down. Lyra spun, dagger flashing. One guard dropped with a slash to his leg. Another stumbled as she smashed the hilt into his jaw. The crowd thought it was part of the show and cheered even louder. They sprinted toward the east. Tunnel. Kale knew the path narrow. Corridors that wound under the arena toward the lower gate. The smell of damp stone and rust filled the air. Every step echoed like a drumbeat. Guards will be coming, Kale said. They'll be too late if we move fast. Lyra replied, but as they rounded a corner, the sound of boots pounding on stone met them head on. 4 guards appeared, blocking the way. Kale didn't slow. A tease slammed into the first, sending him sprawling, then grabbed the man's spear. Lyra ducked under a swing and kicked another guard's knee sideways with a crack. The narrow tunnel worked in their favor. Only 2 could attack at once. But every second wasted meant more would be coming. They pushed through and kept running. At the next junction, Lyra stopped suddenly. She said, pointing to a heavy iron door. Kale recognized it. The map she had drawn in the dirt weeks ago had shown this door. Beyond it was the lower storage, and from there, the gate to freedom. The lock was old, but thick. Kale rammed his stolen spear into it, twisting hard. Metal screeched. Behind them, shouts grew louder. "Hurry," Lyra urged. The lock gave way with a snap. They shoved the door open and slipped inside, slamming it shut behind them. The storage room smelled of oil and rotting wood. Crates and barrels lined the walls. In the corner, a faint shaft of sunlight streamed down from a vent high above, and there against the far wall was the lower gate. A heavy metal barrier, half-rusted with just enough space at the bottom to see the desert beyond. "Freedom," Kale single quotes us. Heart pounded. "We're close." Lyra was already moving toward the gate when a voice echoed from the shadows. "Close. But not close enough." The arena master stepped forward, flanked by 2 elite guards in black armor. His green eyes glowed in the dim light. "You've given my people quite the show," he said, his tone almost amused. "But the performance ends here." Kale stepped in front of Lyra, spear ready. "Move, or I make you." The master's smile widened. "Bold. I like that." He flicked his fingers. The guards advanced. The fight was brutal. Kale blocked a heavy strike, the spear shaft splintering in his hands. He ducked under another swing and drove his shoulder into the guard's chest. Knocking him back into a stack of crates, Lyra moved, like water, twisting and slashing. Her stolen dagger flashed in the gloom, leaving deep cuts in black armor. The master didn't move. Simply watching, his smile never fading. When the second guard fell, Kale charged the master. But the alien was faster than Kale expected. A clawed hand caught Kale's wrist and twisted, forcing him to drop the broken spear. The master's voice was low. "You can't win, human. I've been breaking your kind since before you were born." Kale bared his teeth. "Then maybe it's time someone broke you." He slammed his forehead into the alien's face. The master staggered back, hissing. Lyra grabbed Kale's arm. "The gate now." They ran. Kale threw his weight against the rusty mechanism. It groaned, then slowly began to rise. Sunlight spilled through the widening gap. Shouts filled the tunnel behind them. More guards. The gate was only halfway up when Kale dropped to his stomach and rolled under, dragging Lyra with him. Sand hit his face, hot and dry. They scrambled to their feet, running into the blinding desert as the gate clanged shut behind them. For a moment, there was only silence. The arena's noise was gone, replaced by the hiss of wind over endless dunes. Lyra looked at Kale. "We did it." Kale shook his head. "No. We started it. They'll come after us." Far behind, the master stepped to the edge of the gate, watching them disappear into the horizon. His smile had not faded. The choice the desert sun was brutal, burning the sand until it shimmered like gold fire. Kale and Lyra moved quickly, their shadows long behind them. Every step felt heavier. The arena was far now, but the sound of it still lived in their ears, the roar of the crowd, the ring of metal, the voice of the master promising he would take them back. They didn't speak. Breath was too precious. Then Kale stopped. He had heard it distant, but growing. Hoofbeats. They turned over the dunes. Black shapes appeared riders, their armor glinting under the sun. The master's hunters. "They're faster than us," Lyra said. Kale scanned the horizon. To the east, jagged rocks rose from the sand like broken teeth. "We make for the cliffs. Narrow paths harder for them to follow." They ran. The riders closed in, their alien mounts kicking up clouds of sand. Arrows began to whistle past, hissing into the ground around Kale and Lyra. A shaft tore through the air and sliced the edge of Lyra's tunic. She stumbled, but Kale caught her arm, pulling her forward. The cliffs grew nearer dark stone, rising high above the desert floor. But so did the hunters. By the time they reached the first shadow of the rocks, Cale knew they wouldn't both make it. The path ahead narrowed to a thin ridge, barely wide enough for one person at a time. If they tried to climb together, the hunters would catch them before they reached the top. He grabbed Lyra's shoulder, forcing her to face him. "You climb, I'll hold them off." Her eyes flashed with anger. "No, there's no time. I said no." She stepped closer, her voice low and sharp. "I didn't escape to lose you here. We leave together." The first rider reached the base of the cliffs. Cale shoved Lyra toward the ridge. "Go." She didn't move. Instead, she drew her dagger, planting herself beside him. "If you stay, I stay." Cale wanted to argue, but there was no time. The hunters charged. The first one swung his curved blade. Cale met it with a block, the force rattling his bones. Lyra darted forward, slashing the rider's leg. He fell. From the saddle with a howl, another rider dismounted, rushing them with twin knives. Cale stepped into his swing and drove an elbow into his throat. The alien dropped, choking. But more came. They fought in the shadow of the cliffs, blades flashing in the sun. Sand turned dark where it mixed with blood. Lyra moved like the wind, faster than Cale had ever seen her. Every strike was clean, every motion precise. She fought like someone reclaiming every moment that had been stolen from her. Still, there were too many. A blade slipped past Cale's guard, cutting deep across his side. He staggered, blood soaking into his shirt. "Cale." Lyra's voice cracked, but she didn't falter. Her dagger sank into the attacker's chest. Cale dropped to one knee. The world tilted for a moment, heat and pain mixing into a haze. Lyra knelt beside him. "Get up. We're not done." He managed a faint grin. "You're bossy when you're free. And you're stubborn when you're bleeding." She shot back, pulling him to his feet. The remaining hunters hesitated now, seeing the bodies of their fallen scattered in the sand. They circled, unsure. Then a horn sounded in the distance. The riders turned at once, retreating toward the dunes. Cale frowned. Why are they leaving? Lyra's eyes lifted past him toward the horizon. The sun was sinking, and with it came shadows that moved against the light. Dark, massive shapes slithering over the sand. "They're not afraid of us," she whispered. "They're afraid of them." Cale didn't ask. He just gripped her hand. "We climb. Now." They scrambled up the narrow ridge, rocks cutting in two, their hands and knees. Below, the dark shapes grew clearer, giant sand beasts, moving in slow, powerful waves. Their massive heads turned toward the scent of blood by the time Cale and Lyra reached the top. The hunters were gone, swallowed by the desert. The beasts circled below, but did not climb. At the cliff's edge, the wind was cool. The desert stretched. Endlessly behind them, the arena nothing more than a memory in the far haze. Cale sank against a boulder, pressing a hand to his wound. "We made it." Lyra crouched beside him, her pale eyes searching his face. "You tried to leave me?" "Was trying to save you? You did," she said softly. "But not without you." Night fell over the desert, the stars bright and sharp above. Lyra sat beside Cale, both of them silent for a long time. Finally, Cale spoke. "Where now?" She looked to the horizon. "Somewhere they can't find us. And if they do, we fight." Again, Cale smiled faintly. "Good. I was starting to miss the crowd." Her lips curved in the first true smile he had seen from her. "Not me. But I'll fight with you." Far away, in the master's chamber, a messenger knelt. "They escaped," the alien reported. The master only smiled. "Good. Let them run. The game has only begun."